Imagine Patrick Mahomes going down on the field clutching his ankle 1 week before the Super Bowl. That's exactly what happened last night to the biggest sport on the planet. And it happened right here, in the United States, inside the stadium of the New England Patriots. Kylian Mbappé, the most expensive athlete in the world, the man who turned down $1 billion, more than any contract in the history of the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball. Down on the turf in Foxborough, with his hand on his right ankle, 5 days before playing the World Cup against Spain or Belgium in Texas. He got up, he walked off applauding, and he said he was fine. But anyone who has watched a single game of his this season knows that the same ankle is the reason Real Madrid had him out for a month this year. That the same body has been carrying pain since January that nobody has fully explained, and that nobody's pulse is racing harder over the next 3 days than Didier Deschamps. Does Mbappé make it to Tuesday? I'll answer that in 2 minutes with the medical report from this very hour. No detours. But don't leave after that, because behind that injury, there's a story that almost nobody in this country knows, and it's the reason this World Cup is worth what it's worth. You're going to see why a kid from the outskirts of Paris said no to $1 billion. And what that decision cost him: a war with his own club, a humiliating punishment, a $61 million lawsuit, and years playing broken in silence until last night the body asked him to stop. And you're going to see what this country has riding on Tuesday. America hadn't hosted a World Cup since 1994, more than 3 decades. Semi-final tickets in Arlington are reselling for thousands of dollars. It's the most expensive sporting event ever staged on American soil, bigger than any Super Bowl. And the whole show hangs on one ankle. Stay with me, because when this video ends, you're going to know if the star makes it to Tuesday or if America paid for the most expensive show in its history just to stare at an empty seat. Lock in this time, 9:10 in the morning. Because what the French national team leaked officially to the press at that exact hour, and what Mbappé confessed privately to his father over the phone 40 minutes earlier, are 2 different stories. The French national team's official medical report was released this morning at 9:10 Eastern Time from the USMNT training facility in Foxborough, where France is stationed during the quarterfinals and semi-finals of the World Cup. Official diagnosis: minor contusion of the anterior talofibular ligament of the right ankle. Translated: a strong blow to the outer ligament of the ankle. No tear, no grade 2 sprain, no surgery, no injury list. Estimated recovery time between 72 and 96 hours. The semi-final is in exactly 100 hours. Kylian Mbappé is going to play Tuesday at 8 in the evening Eastern Time inside AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, the home of the Dallas Cowboys. The most expensive stadium ever built in the history of American professional sports. $1.3 billion. And that's the short answer. But before you leave this video thinking you already know everything, keep this in your head. Because there are 3 things about what happened last night in Foxborough that neither Deschamps nor Mbappé nor the official doctor of the French national team is going to tell you in front of a camera. And one of those 3 things, if you understand it right, completely changes the read on whether Mbappé shows up whole on Tuesday or whether he shows up in Arlington with his body hanging by a thread. The first thing nobody told you about last night was the exact minute. 75:30. Look at the game clock. 75 minutes, 30 seconds. Mbappé was standing in the center circle. No ball, no duel, no contact. 5 yards away from the nearest Moroccan. He raised his right arm. He put his hand on his ankle. He let himself fall backward onto the turf slowly, controlling the fall, and he asked for the substitution. 5 yards away from the nearest opponent, no ball nearby, no prior physical contact, and he asked to come off. An elite professional soccer player doesn't drop far from the ball because of a hit he took 10 minutes earlier, unless that hit is warning him about something. The medical staff at Real Madrid, the medical staff of the French national team, The people who have been in locker rooms with Mbappe for the last 8 years, they all know it. That gesture in minute 75 carried weight. A silent warning from a body that had been carrying something nobody wanted to name for months. And the second thing nobody told you was the foot. The right one. Kylian Mbappé is a pure right footer. Every one of his goals with the French national team since 2018, 84%, has been scored with his right foot. His shooting technique depends on the firm anchor of his right ankle for the hip pivot and the final whip of the knee. A compromised right ankle, even at 50%, doesn't stop him from running. It doesn't stop him from dribbling. It doesn't stop him from heading. It compromises just one thing. The one thing the United States paid $1.3 billion in FIFA advertising to have him in this World Cup for. The strike on goal. Have you ever wondered what a 27-year-old forward feels world champion, Golden Boot winner, when he understands that the foot he has scored 84% of his career national team goals with may show up at the most important game of the next 4 years, unable to plant at 100%? 10 things he feels, all inside his chest: fear, rage, vertigo, the weight of a jersey with number 10 on the back, and the very fresh memory of what happened exactly 7 months ago when another ankle of his, the same right one, sent Real Madrid into a medical disaster that came close to ending his career. That medical disaster took place in January of 2026. And it's the third thing nobody told you about last night. The direct connection between what happened in minute 75:30 inside Gillette Stadium in Foxborough last night and what happened inside a medical office at Real Madrid's training complex in Valdebebas, Madrid, exactly 7 months ago. Lock in January 10th. Because what happened inside a medical office at Real Madrid's training complex that morning explains why the right ankle of the most expensive athlete on the planet asked to stop last night inside Gillette Stadium. On January 10th of 2026, Kylian Mbappé with Real Madrid leading La Liga by 10 points over Barcelona, with 28 goals in 18 games. With the European Golden Boot in sight, came off the morning training session at Valdebebas, limping on his right leg. The club's medical services gave him an MRI that same afternoon. Official diagnosis: ligament sprain of the left knee. The left. Kylian Mbappé was pulled from the first team for the next 28 days. He missed 4 La Liga games. He missed the first leg of the round of 16 Champions League tie. And he missed, according to what he told Canal Plus, 3 months later on French television, 10 straight nights unable to sleep from the pain. 10 nights. Because the left knee wasn't what was hurting. It was the right one. French sports journalist Daniele Riolo, host of Laughter Foot on RMC Sport, went live on air on February 14th of 2026 with what had happened inside that medical office at Valdebebas. Riolo said, with the official source of a member of the club's medical staff, that Real Madrid's medical services had examined the wrong knee of Kylian Mbappé. The wrong one. They had given him an MRI of the left knee when the problem was inside the right ankle and the kinetic chain from the right foot up to the right knee. They had prescribed him anti-inflammatories for an injury he didn't have. They had put him through physical therapy for a ligament that was healthy. And they had cleared him to return a month later without ever treating the real problem. Mbappé went back to playing on February 13th of 2026 with the right ankle still inflamed inside, with the right knee compensating for the weight of a compromised ankle. And with persistent pain that he himself described in that same Canal Plus interview in 5 exact words. He said he had played 11 straight weeks biting the pillow at night. 11 weeks, from February through mid-April of 2026. 11 weeks playing every 3 days with the French national team, with Real Madrid in the closing stretch of La Liga, with the Champions League tie against Manchester City where he scored 4 decisive goals, with the right ankle misdiagnosed since January 10th. And when on April 24th of 2026, in Mbappe's 100th game with Real Madrid on the turf of the Santiago Bernabeu, an Athletic Bilbao defender accidentally stepped on his right ankle during a set piece. Mbappé got up off the ground wearing the white Real Madrid jersey with an expression that Movistar Plus caught live and replayed in slow motion for 10 straight seconds. It was not the expression of a soccer player in pain. It was the expression of a man who had been waiting 11 weeks for that moment to come. On May 11th of 2026, 5 weeks after the stomp at the Bernabeu, Kylian Mbappé personally signed the medical leave from Real Madrid for the rest of the season. He missed the last 3 La Liga games, he missed the Champions League semi-final, and he flew to the United States with the French national team on May 14th with his right ankle still, with no official MRI on file. No official MRI? In the middle of a World Cup? And last night, inside Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, in minute 75:30, that same right ankle misdiagnosed in January, loaded for 11 weeks, without an official MRI in 5 months, sent its warning a second time. The first was in January in Valdebebas, the second was last night in Foxborough, and the third, if it comes, is going to come on Tuesday night on the field of AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. In front of 80,000 American fans paying thousands of dollars per seat, and in front of more than 300 million global viewers glued to their TVs, one ankle, one warning, a whole country watching. And the question the entire medical staff of the French national team is asking itself this morning inside the team hotel in Foxborough, the question Deschamps can't answer at the official press conference, the question Mbappé himself has been avoiding on social media since 11 o'clock Thursday night, is this: does Kylian Mbappe's right ankle hold up 90 more minutes on Tuesday? And behind that question is another more uncomfortable one. Why is a 27-year-old soccer player at the peak of his career, with the European Golden Boot and the La Liga Pichichi already in his trophy case, with a Real Madrid contract signed through 2030, taking the risk of blowing out his right ankle for good on an American field in the middle of a World Cup? The answer lives inside this man's history, inside a neighborhood in East Paris the United States doesn't know, inside a Cameroonian father who coached banlieue kids for 20 years without ever taking a dollar, inside an Algerian mother who is today one of the most feared sports agents in world soccer, and inside a decision Kylian Mbappé made in the summer of 2023 that cost him everything a 24-year-old player could lose. Everything except the right ankle. That one he keeps carrying, and last night it asked to stop. Bondy is what the United States would call an inner ring suburb, a French banlieue, working class, pressed against the Paris Beltway. 6 miles from the city centre, 54,000 residents, 70% of African immigrant or Maghrebi origin. Housing project blocks 10 stories tall with graffiti painted on the walls. A national police station guarded 24 hours a day. And an amateur soccer club called AS Bondy that played Sunday mornings on a packed dirt field in the east side of town. That packed dirt field is where the most expensive athlete in world sports grew up. In Bondy, if you're the son of an African immigrant born in France, you have 10 options. The first, public school, and an administrative job for €2,000 a month for the next 40 years. The second, low-level street crime and a jail cell in South Paris before you turn 25. And options 3 through 10, soccer. In the year 2004, a 6-year-old boy named Kylian Mbappé walked onto the packed dirt field of AS Bondy holding his father's hand. The father's name was Wilfried Mbappé Lotin, Cameroonian by birth, born on the island of Jebel in the estuary of the Wouri River, 4 miles from the port of Douala. His parents brought him to France when he was 1 year old. He grew up in Bondy. Wilfried had been an amateur soccer player, left winger, never made it past the 5th tier of French soccer, and in 1996, at 26 years old, he took a job as head coach of the youth teams at AS Bondy. Salary: €0 a month. Volunteer: unpaid. For the next 20 straight years, Wilfried coached 7, 8, and 9-year-old Bondy kids for 20 full years without ever collecting a single euro. He worked as a bus driver for the East Paris Municipal Transit Authority on the morning shift, and in the afternoons he went to the packed dirt field at AS Bondy to coach the neighborhood kids until 9 at night. Have you ever wondered what a 26-year-old Cameroonian man carries when he decides to give 20 years of unpaid afternoons to the kids of a Paris banlieue? 10 things he carries. Inside his chest. The debt to the African father who brought him across the Mediterranean when he was 1 year old. The shame of never making it pro himself. The fear that his future children would end up inside the Charles de Gaulle Street police station. The contained rage of a black man in the France of 1996. And the silent promise that if God gave him a son, that son was going to get where he never got. Wilfried Mbappé carried all 10 for the next 10 straight years, until the promise arrived. The mother's name was Faiza Lamari, born in Bondy in 1974, of Algerian origin. From the Kabyle Berber community, an Amazigh ethnic group of northern Algeria with centuries of military resistance against the Ottomans and against the French colonizers. In Bondy, saying Kabyle means fight, saying Kabyle means pride, saying Kabyle means women who don't lower their heads in front of a man. Faiza was a professional handball player, centre-back, 5'7", 150 pounds of muscle, and a capacity to yell inside a court that no French referee could handle without pulling a yellow card on her in the first 10 minutes. Wilfried and Faiza met in 1995. They signed a civil partnership agreement in 2016, and they officially separated in 2021. Kylian Mbappé himself, speaking on the French program Clique in March of 2025, described his parents' separation with 3 exact words: a national divorce. Because Wilfried and Faiza Mbappé, in 2021, when their son was already the biggest star of the French national team, when the Mbappé commercial brand was worth $400 million a year, decided to separate their private lives without separating the family business. Wilfried kept managing the son's sports career. Faiza kept managing the commercial brand, the imagery, the endorsements, the charity foundation. And the two of them, over the 4 years and 10 months from the fall of 21 to today, have kept showing up together in Champions League VIP boxes at Real Madrid, in the tribune of the Stade de France in Paris, and inside Gillette Stadium in Foxborough exactly 10 hours ago. Together, ex-partners, not speaking outside business meetings, lock in that family dynamic. Because when you understand what Faiza Lamari did inside a hotel room in Paris in the summer of 2023, and what Wilfried Mbappé told his son by phone from Bondy 72 hours later, you're going to understand why Kylian Mbappé turned down the biggest offer in the history of professional sports, and why that decision ended 2.5 years later with the right ankle of the player crushed inside a stretcher in Foxborough last night. Kylian had an older brother, a brother of unshared African blood, an adopted brother, Jires Kembo Ekoko. Born in Zaire, today the Democratic Republic of Congo, on January 8th of 1988, 10 years older than Kylian. He arrived in Bondy at 9 years old, fleeing the Zairean Civil War of 97. His biological parents had been killed in a machete attack by Hutu militias on the eastern border of the country. An uncle of his worked with Wilfried Mbappé at the East Paris Municipal Transit Authority. Wilfried and Faiza took Jires into the family home in '98, and in 2002, with Jires already playing starting forward on the AS Bondy youth team, the couple legally formalized guardianship of the Congolese boy in front of a family court judge in Bobigny. That's the brother who taught Kylian, at 4 years old, to strike the ball with his right foot. The right foot, the same ankle that asked to stop last night. Kylian signed his first professional contract at 14 with AS Monaco on December 11th of 2013. He turned down offers from Real Madrid, from Arsenal, from Chelsea, and from PSG itself. Wilfried, acting as the primary agent of his underage son, negotiated the contract himself. Signing bonus, €5 million. On December 2nd of 2015, at 16 years and 347 days old, Kylian made his French top-flight debut at the Michel Dornano Stadium of Stade Malherbe de Caen. And in the summer of 2017, Qatari-owned Paris Saint-Germain announced the most expensive signing in the history of French soccer to that date. €180 million for an 18-year-old kid from the Bondy banlieue. Kylian was back in Paris, 6 miles from the packed dirt field at AS Bondy, where his father had taught him to shoot with his right foot. In 2018, Kylian was crowned world champion with the French national team at the World Cup in Russia, 19 years old. Second teenager in the history of soccer to score in a World Cup final. The first had been Pelé, 60 years earlier. In 2022, in the World Cup final in Qatar against Messi's Argentina, he scored 3 goals, a hat-trick, tied the game twice, and still lost the final on penalty kicks inside Lusail Stadium in Doha. And in June of 2023, 7 months after that final in Doha, inside room 10-10 of the Peninsula Hotel on Avenue Kléber in Paris, Kylian Mbappe's entire life exploded because of a single phone call from Saudi Arabia. On June 10th of 2023, at 8:10 in the evening French local time, lock in that room, 10-10, at the Peninsula Hotel. Because what Kylian Mbappé decided in there that night of June 10th of 23 is the exact reason his right ankle asked to stop 37 months later inside an NFL stadium. The man who called from Saudi Arabia that night was an intermediary from Al Hilal of Riyadh, a former European soccer executive named Michael Emenalo, former Chelsea director of football, hired by the Saudi Sovereign Fund to recruit the top 10 stars in world soccer into the Saudi Pro League. Emenalo made Wilfried Mbappé, inside that 10-minute phone call, an offer no athlete on the planet had ever received in writing. 700 million euros gross for one single season, with additional personal endorsement deals for another 400 million, with image rights valued at another 200 million, with a charity foundation in Bondy funded by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for another 100 million, $1.4 billion total. Bigger than any contract in the history of the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball combined for a single player. Bigger than Patrick Mahomes' 10-year contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. Bigger than LeBron James' lifetime deal with the Lakers. Bigger than Shohei Ohtani's contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bigger than any offer ever made to a human being for kicking a ball, hitting a pitch, or shooting a basketball. Kylian Mbappé was 24 years old. And Kylian Mbappé, inside that room 10-10 at the Peninsula, on June 10th of 23, with Wilfried sitting on the brown leather couch and Fazer sitting in the armchair by the window, said 5 words to the Saudi agent. He said he wasn't interested in the money. He said no to the biggest check in the history of professional sports. No counter, no negotiation, no lawyers, no asking for 48 hours to think it over, just no. And that 2-letter word, spoken by a 24-year-old kid from the Bondy banlieue, inside a hotel room on Avenue Kléber in Paris on the night of June 10th of 2023, is the exact reason Paris Saint-Germain, 2 months later, made a decision that destroyed the next 10 months of Kylian Mbappe's playing life. And that started the chain of silent blows to the player's body that last night, inside Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, collected their first public bill. Have you ever wondered what the president of a multi-billion-dollar soccer club feels when he finds out his biggest star just turned down the largest offer in the history of sports, only to leave for free in 12 months? 10 things he feels, all inside his chest. Betrayal, rage, public humiliation in front of the French press, fear of losing a 180 million euro investment without recovering a single euro, and the silent urge to punish the player in front of the whole locker room. Nasser Al-Khelaifi, the Qatari president of the club, understood that same night one thing. If Mbappé was turning down $1.4 billion from the Saudi Sovereign Fund, it was because his plan was different. His plan was to leave for free, no transfer, no fee, without leaving PSG a single euro in compensation when the contract ended in June of 2024. A free agent to Real Madrid. 12 months later, Al-Khelaifi made a decision on June 15th of 2023 inside the main office of the PSG headquarters in West Paris. And that decision was going to mark Kylian Mbappe's body forever. He pulled the player from the first team group, banned him from training with the other 26 teammates of the senior squad, sent him to train alone in a walled-off area of the Poissy training complex with a different strength coach, a different physical therapist, a different chef, and with the French sports press camped outside the facility filming every morning of the public humiliation, the French press called it Le Loft, the back room, the storage space of the house where you put the things that don't work anymore. Kylian Mbappé trained inside PSG's loft for the next 55 full days, alone, with no teammates, without the team that had signed with him 6 years earlier when he arrived from Monaco for 180 million euros, without the locker room that had celebrated with him the Russia and Qatar World Cup goals, without the Parc des Princes fans who had chanted his name for 7 straight seasons. 55 days training alone, with the French sports press publishing daily headlines about his weight, his mood, his possible destinations, his betrayal of the club that had signed him, and with the body of a 24-year-old kid, physically at the peak of his career, starting to accumulate small, silent muscle injuries from the lack of competitive rhythm of pro-group training. That's the exact moment Kylian Mbappe's physical problems started. Summer of 2023. Poissy Training Complex. Training alone inside the loft, with the RMC sport cameras filming from the other side of the fence. And Kylian Mbappe's right ankle, still healthy at that moment, began compensating the uneven weight of individual training without official games, without real sprints against an opponent, without hard braking, without direction, changes with resistance. That imbalance, held for 55 straight days, collected its first public bill last night inside Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. On August 10th of 2023, day 55 of the Loft, Kylian Mbappé sat down inside PSG's main office with Nasser Al-Khelaifi and signed a silent agreement no European sports outlet published in full until today. He went back to the first team, played the remaining 10 months of the 23-24 season in the white PSG jersey with the number 10 on his back, scored 44 goals, won the French league for the club's 10th consecutive season, and said goodbye to the Parc des Princes on the final match day of May 2024 with a 10-minute speech over the loudspeaker in front of 48,000 fans crying in silence. He left for free, no transfer, no fee. Without PSG collecting a single euro on the player they had signed for 180 million 7 years earlier. And on June 3rd of 2024, Kylian Mbappé personally signed with Real Madrid inside the Santiago Bernabeu building on Avenue Concha Espina, 5-year contract. 15 million euros net annual base salary, 210 million euros signing bonus spread over 5 seasons, and the number 10 jersey, the same one he wore with the French national team, given to him by personal decision of Florentino Perez. Kylian Mbappé fulfilled the dream he had signed by hand inside a red-covered notebook in Bondy at 7 years old. But he fulfilled it with his body already carrying 55 days of the Loft, with the right ankle compensating for silent imbalances accumulated over the summer of 23, and with a legal battle against PSG that was going to last the next 18 straight months. Because PSG, humiliated by the free exit, decided not to pay the player 3 installments of personal bonuses agreed to by contract in 2022, 61 million euros gross, 61 million. Withheld, Mbappé sued the club in Labour Court number 10 in Paris in September of 2024. The process lasted 15 months. And on December 9th of 2025, exactly 7 months ago, Judge Marie-Céline Rousseau of the Paris Tribunal de Grande Instance issued a ruling ordering Paris Saint-Germain to pay Kylian Mbappé 61 million euros plus interest. PSG did not appeal, paid the ruling in full within the next 60 days. Kylian Mbappé won the legal battle, but he came out of the process with an accumulated emotional wear that no Real Madrid team doctor detected in the routine physicals of 25. That wear, added to the Loft of 23, added to the muscle overload of the 24 and 25 seasons with Real Madrid, added to the medical misdiagnosis of the wrong knee in January of 26, added to the 11 weeks biting the pillow. All of it collected inside the right ankle of a 27-year-old man one July afternoon inside Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Last night, And here comes the most uncomfortable question of all. The question the top executive at FIFA is asking himself this morning inside the presidential hotel in New York. The question the governor of Texas is asking inside the official office of the Capitol in Austin. The question the 5,500 sports journalists accredited to this World Cup are asking. And the question every American fan who paid a resale ticket for $4,000 to get into AT&T Stadium in Arlington on Tuesday night is asking. How much is Kylian Mbappe's right ankle worth to the United States? And the answer, if you add up everything this country has invested in this World Cup over the last 10 straight years, is going to drop your jaw to the floor. Remember this number, 11 billion. Because when you understand where it came from and where it went, you're going to understand why this country is this morning holding its breath over the right ankle of a kid from the Paris banlieue. The United States won the hosting rights to the 2026 World Cup on June 13th of 2018 in a FIFA vote in Moscow where the joint bid of the United States, Mexico, and Canada beat the Moroccan bid 134-65. The official organizing budget inside American territory was $11 billion. $11 billion. $11 billion. Twice the annual military budget of the country of Croatia, 4 times the construction cost of the Empire State Building, adjusted to $2026, 10 times NASA's annual budget for lunar exploration. Out of those 11 billion, approximately 4.2 billion went to the global advertising of the top 10 stars of the World Cup, and the name that appeared in the most advertising inside FIFA's official campaign for the international market was Kylian Mbappe's. Alone. Without Messi, without Cristiano Ronaldo, without Erling Haaland, without Pulisic, Mbappé. The face of the 2026 World Cup in the American market. The official semi-final poster. The 30-second Adidas ad that aired during the Super Bowl in February for $10 million. The best-selling jersey inside American official retail during the first 6 months of 2026, with 84,000 units sold. Yes. 84,000 France number 10 jerseys sold inside the United States in 6 months. A country whose national team hasn't won a World Cup in 60 years. A country where soccer is historically the 4th sport after American football, basketball, and baseball. A country that bought more jerseys of a French player who plays for Real Madrid in Spain than jerseys of its own Christian Pulisic during the last 6 months of 26. The United States bet on Mbappe as the face of the World Cup inside its own territory. And that bet, today, July 10th of 2026, 3 days from the Arlington semi-final, is hanging on the anterior talofibular ligament of the right ankle of a kid from the Bondy banlieue. 1 ligament, 1 ankle, $4.2 billion of advertising investment. Have you ever wondered how much money an American television network moves when it buys the broadcast rights to the biggest World Cup ever staged? The number stops making sense to a normal human brain. It stops being money. It becomes financial abstraction. Fox Sports paid $10 billion in 2015 for the complete 2026 World Cup package, and it has sold advertising for the games featuring Mbappe for $320 million. The most expensive advertising in the World Cup, more expensive than the United States games, more expensive than the Brazil games, more expensive than the Argentina games with Messi. And if Mbappe does not play Tuesday night inside AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Fox Sports takes a direct loss of over $70 million in one single night. 1 ankle. $70 million. One single night. The right ankle of Kylian Mbappé, over the next 4 days, is the most expensive asset in world capitalism, more expensive than any single-day stock on the New York Stock Exchange. More expensive than Max Verstappen's Formula One car, more expensive than the personal yacht of the Emir of Qatar. A 27-year-old kid from the Bondy banlieue, a right ankle compromised since January, an anterior talofibular ligament with minor contusion, and an entire country holding its breath. Kylian Mbappé woke up this morning inside his room at the French national team hotel in Foxborough at 8:10. He got out of bed right foot first, the same way he has every morning since he was 8 years old. He went down to the hotel gym. Physical therapy on the right ankle for 45 minutes. Mobility. Resistance without load. Cryotherapy inside a portable chamber at -110 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 minutes. 45 minutes. In silence, with his eyes closed, with the ankle carrying the responsibility of an entire country. The French national team did not practice this morning. Deschamps gave the day off. The first session with the ball is scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday at 11 in the morning, inside the auxiliary field at Gillette Stadium. And Sunday morning, the new official MRI of Kylian Mbappe's right ankle is scheduled. The first official MRI done on the player's right ankle in the last 7 months. The first. After everything that happened to his body since January. The French national team medical services are going to know Sunday morning what Real Madrid's medical services didn't catch in January, what Deschamps can't say to the official press today Friday, and what Mbappe has been carrying in silence since the Loft of 23. What's really inside the right ankle of the most expensive star in world sports 3 days from the semi-final of the most expensive World Cup ever staged? If that Sunday morning MRI shows a serious injury, a grade 2 ligament tear, a fracture of the fibula malleolus, or a compression of the deep peroneal nerve, Kylian Mbappé does not play Tuesday. Period. Deschamps sits him on the bench, puts the captain's armband on Antoine Griezmann, and France goes into the semi-final with Jean-Philippe Mateta leading the attack. A forward from Crystal Palace, a lesser-known name. A player with 2 total career goals with the French national team. Against Spain or Belgium, with the entire United States watching on television, with Fox Sports watching $70 million of advertising fall off the balance sheet in 3 hours of live broadcast. And if the Sunday morning MRI shows only the minor contusion of the anterior talofibular ligament that the official report said this morning, without additional structural damage, Mbappe plays Tuesday with the right ankle taped from top to bottom, reinforced tape, cortisone injection approved by FIFA, 2 oral pain relievers before warm-ups, and 90 minutes gritting his teeth without being able to plant at 100% on the foot that scored 84% of his career goals. 90 minutes gritting his teeth. In front of 80,000 Americans paying thousands of dollars per seat. In front of more than 300 million global viewers glued to the television. And in front of a Cameroonian father sitting in the VIP tribune of AT&T Stadium wearing a black baseball cap with his eyes wet, Wilfried Mbappé, 54 years old, former East Paris bus driver, former AS Bondy volunteer coach, who never collected a single euro for 20 straight years. And that Cameroonian father is going to watch Tuesday's game, holding the hand of Faiza Lamari, his ex-partner, his ex-business partner, the woman he hadn't spoken to outside business meetings since 2021, the two of them together, for their son Kylian. Because there is one thing this country needs to understand before this video ends, and it's what Kylian Mbappé has never said in public in front of an American television camera. Kylian Mbappé does not play to win the United States World Cup for France. He does not play for FIFA. He does not play for Fox Sports. Kylian Mbappé plays to pay his Cameroonian father back for the 20 years of unpaid afternoons on the packed dirt field at AS Bondy. To pay his Kabyle Algerian mother back for the sleepless nights inside room 10-10 at the Peninsula Hotel when he said no to the $1.4 billion of the Saudi Crown Prince, to pay his Congolese adopted brother back for the backyard goals in the Bondy family home. And he plays, above all, to pay the 6-year-old boy back, the one with the AS Bondy backpack on his shoulders, who crossed the packed dirt field of the East Paris banlieue on a Saturday morning of 2004, holding the hand of a Cameroonian man who worked as a bus driver, making 1,200 euros a month. That 6-year-old boy, that father, that neighborhood, that right ankle. All of it is going to walk onto the field of AT&T Stadium in Arlington on Tuesday at 8 in the evening Eastern Time, with the number 10 on his back, with the reinforced tape on the right ankle, and with an entire country holding its breath as the first ball of the game starts rolling on American turf. That's Kylian Mbappé Lotin, the kid from the outskirts of Paris who turned down $1.4 billion from the Saudi Crown Prince, the son of a Cameroonian bus driver, and a Kabyle Algerian handball player, the adopted brother of the Congolese boy who crossed the Rwandan border hidden inside a milk truck, the most expensive athlete in the world, the most painful transfer in the history of Paris Saint-Germain, the most lethal goal scorer at Real Madrid since Cristiano Ronaldo, and the man who is going to walk onto the field at AT&T Stadium Tuesday night with his right ankle taped from the malleolus up to the knee, carrying $4.2 billion of FIFA advertising, $70 million of Fox Sports ad revenue, 80,000 American fans with resale tickets going for thousands of dollars, and a 54-year-old Cameroonian father sitting in the VIP tribune holding the hand of the woman he hadn't spoken to since 2021. One ankle, one banlieue, one country, one Tuesday night. If this story moved something inside you, if you felt the weight of an immigrant African father carrying his son's dream from a packed dirt field in East Paris, if you thought about a 6-year-old boy with an AS Bondy backpack on his shoulders, if you remembered a mother waiting for the MRI that will decide whether her son makes it to the most important game of his life, subscribe to Fallen Stars right now. And leave us one thing in the comments. Do you think Mbappe makes it to Tuesday? Or do you think that right ankle is going to say enough on Sunday morning? See you in the next video with the official medical report from Sunday. Point by point, no detours.